welcome to Beyond the Mat, where we discuss the lives of our friends and people before or after they get off the mat. Before we start, I just wanted to make sure I say a few things. Today, January 15th, 2024, want to recognize, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King. Another very important person I want to mention is my late grandmother. Today is her birthday. And the most exciting news that I have, my second granddaughter will be born by the time we're done with this episode. So just want to say, welcome to the world, Lindsay. Now we have my esteemed guest, Chris Ortiz, teacher, coach, author, podcaster. You can find him on YouTube with the Be Someone podcast, and he's a first-degree black belt. We can go ahead and bring him in, Bill. Chris, how we doing? How we doing, my brother?
Oh, man, we're doing good. Over here in Houston, Texas, or actually the Woodlands, Texas, and we're getting a little bit of freezing weather and a little bit of snow, and we don't know how to act.
Of course not. Over here. Of course not. Good. So I was reading where you said were you a product of your environment. What does that mean to you?
Okay, so when I say I was a product of my environment, we didn't come up with too much, right? Like a typical single parent household, saw my dad every other weekend, stayed with my mom. My mom worked multiple jobs. So when I say I'm a product of my environment, I guess what I'm saying is I got to watch my mom, hustle, grind, get out there and do what she had to do to make sure that me and my brother had enough. And because of her excellence through example, I would say, I bring that same attitude and work ethic to everything I do. It's all I know.
You mentioned that you and your brother were the first two to graduate high school from your family. How does that make you and your brother?
What I was going to say is the first to graduate college. We had other people graduate, high school.
Yeah.
But we were the first to get through college. And as far as how did it make us feel, I think the thing that I came away with the most was I got to make my mom proud. That's, I think, was the thing for me that made me the happiest. It's the thing for me that sticks out the most. My mom worked so hard, and it was for her, so to speak. And I'm glad that I went to college, and I'm glad that I have the degree, and I'm a teacher and a coach, but more than anything, I am so elated that I got to make my mother proud. That's number one in my heart. My mom is proud of me, so I can die a happy man knowing that I made my mother proud.
Yes, sir. Now that life lesson and the way that you grew up with a hardworking mother, did that kind of give you something that you wanted to see different in your life in terms of being a father and a husband?
100%. They say that when you have a not so good example of what a father, is supposed to be, you can go one of two ways, right? Like you could follow it, copy it, and you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes, or it could make you want to do the exact opposite. So, for example, and I don't want to throw too much shade on my dad. My dad was a good man. He just wasn't meant to be married, but I have been married 22 years now, and it's the exact opposite of what I grew up in. There was multiple marriages and divorces in between my mom and my dad. I think my dad had been married like 4 or 5 times, and my mom's been married a few times herself, and seeing that instability made me want to bring stability to my own family. So my brother and I, strangely enough, have been married to our spouses for a long time. We both got a couple of kids, and I gravitate and I yearn for stability.
So with that being said, is that your way of giving back what you've learned and how you are by teaching kids for the past 19 years? You're able to share as much as you can with them to kind of shape them to be better people going forward.
Big time. The statistics say that there's more kids that grew up like my situation than actually grow up in an ideal situation. And those numbers are trending in the wrong direction, unfortunately. So I think what it does is that it gives me the ability to relate to some of these young people, or actually most of these young people, And the ones that can't relate to the instability part, like I can also speak to them on the stability parts. Like, look, these are the positives of staying married, being married, taking care of your spouse and your children. I feel like it gives me an all-encompassing ability to talk to everybody, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I kind of feel the same way. Me being a product of my environment, I was placed in so many positions or so many situations that I had to learn stuff. I had to learn stuff quick, and I had to decipher what the right thing is versus what I seen growing up. So I definitely understand you right there. Now, along with being a teacher, you're an author. Podcaster. Tell me a little bit about the author. I'm very interested in the books, the book or books that you've written so far.
It's strange how I actually got into becoming a writer. I've always had these ideas in my head and these stories in my head. I like mixing things. So during COVID, we all sat around for a really long time, and
Mm-hmm.
some people did not use that time constructively. And then there's a handful of us that actually use that time to do any and everything that we ever wanted to do. It was like a window, it was an opportunity to chase our dreams. So, I started writing, and it was just a little bit every day. It's not like you have to write a whole book in one day, just a little bit every day. And, before I knew it, I had these projects. And the idea behind these projects where I wanted to meld, life stories of mine with hip hop. So for the most part, if you look at the titles of my book, there's a big hip hop influence. There's a rhyme scheme. The names in my book, like Dear Mama, right? Like that's a throwback, to the
Tupac.
GOAT, Tupac.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah. But it was also a way for me to show the people in my life, love, like the Dear Mama. It's a book, and it's a book that is about the different life lessons, that a single mother, teaches her son as she's raising him, to be a man, like how to treat a woman, empathy, and kindness, just all these different things that she taught me growing up. And each page is its own separate lesson, right? And then I wrote
Mm-hmm.
one about my father, and it was rolling around the city of Houston, and I took that Paul Wall and Kanye West song, "Drive Slow," and I use it kind of like as a euphemism, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
let's drive slow and let's enjoy the time that we have together. So we're cruising around H Town and we're looking at all the beautiful sights and sounds, but he's also like imparting lessons to me and talking about our family history. And I've got 5 books that I've written. I've actually got a 6th one that I'm working on right now that's all about the benefits of martial arts on the youth. So I've called up some of my buddies at these different gyms in Houston. I actually reached out to some other people like Heath Pedigo out there at Pedigo Submission Fighting, the Daisy Fresh Voice, and just throwing, images and pictures of them as the backdrop, but then each page is going to have a different lesson that martial arts can impart upon our youth.
Definitely want to get to the martial arts part of it, but just want to go back to the books real quick. When you were dreaming it up and you began the writing process, did you find yourself able to be very vulnerable and sharing your experience through the writings in your book?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's nothing more vulnerable than putting something down on paper and then say presenting it to a loved one, presenting it to an editor, presenting it to the world to see, like if there's traction and if there's value and if people, stand behind you. Like it's one of the most vulnerable things I think I've ever had to do in my life. You're bearing your soul, right?
Yep.
And you're bearing your soul to the world, not just like your significant other or your children or maybe a coach. Like you're bearing your soul to the world. So as far as vulnerability goes, yeah, that's probably the most vulnerable I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took those walls down.
Did your parents have a chance to read those books? And if so, what did they think about it?
Oh man, my mom, she was so flippin' proud. Whenever she received it, I think it's probably like the best thing that I've ever could have done for her. It's a physical representation of the way that I feel about her, and the way that I think about her, and it's my way of giving thanks to her. My father, he knew that the book was in production. Now, sadly enough, he passed from COVID, and it was literally, I think, maybe like a week after he had passed away, the book was completed, and it was available. So he had seen the artwork and he had gotten the idea of what the story was, but like he had already been in I want to say like a medically induced coma for a little bit. It, I'd say yes, he did, but no, he never got to put eyes on the finished product.
Well, I think that's very important. Speaking of vulnerability, I had a huge problem with being vulnerable in my life. I just couldn't just share how I felt about certain things. So I definitely wanted to see or gauge how your parents or mother to this point enjoyed your book and how she felt about it. Now,
Yeah, she's oh, sorry, I was just gonna
no,
say
no,
she's
no,
my
go,
biggest fan.
yeah.
And you know what? As long as my mom's proud of me, man, I'm happy.
That's what it's all about right there. Now, let's get into some of this fun stuff, this
Mm.
sport where we challenge ourselves a little bit. What was your deciding factor to get into martial arts?
Wow, this is a great one. So I've always been a part of team sports, since I can remember. Like playing baseball forever, a little bit in high school, some in college. Played rugby in college. Always hooping. To this day, I still hoop.
I don't
And
have the knees for it anymore.
we get to a certain age, right? And like some of these things are just no longer applicable, and we can't do them anymore. So I was looking for the next thing, right? And the next thing happened to be, martial arts. And there was these martial arts studios over there where I lived, and I would drive by them, every day. And I was curious, but I was scared. And you drive by them, probably for like a plumb year. And then I told myself, like, I'm going to go in. But after I told myself I was going to go in, it took me a week to actually like work the courage up to go in.
Yep.
And once I stepped foot inside, I took that introductory class. It was over at Gracie Baja the Woodlands. And at the time, American hero Chad Robo was the head instructor over there. We had someone that was literally 5'3", probably 130 pounds, twist me up like a pretzel. And I considered myself a good athlete. I mean, I'm not a big guy, but, I played scrum half on the rugby team. I'm a college athlete. I think I'm tough. Well, I thought I was tough, until I threw on the gi and, like I said, someone 5'3" started just twisting me up and yawning and having a conversation with me after strangling me. And I said, I have to know this. I have to learn this this magic that he's got.
And how long have you been practicing jiu-jitsu?
I'm going on 15 years.
Mm.
So started in 2009.
And you just received your first degree on your black belt. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
I often say, Chris, that, people may view jiu-jitsu, especially if you're looking at it on YouTube or social media, they don't understand what goes into that process. They see the finished process of someone, winning by points, whether submission, but to really understand jiu-jitsu, you have to be in that world and train. Do you have your children training jiu-jitsu?
Initially, yes. I had my daughter and my son training jiu-jitsu. The little bit of time that they both trained, I would say that it was like really beneficial to them. But they had other sports interest, and unfortunately, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu it's not cheap, right? So if my son and my daughter are trying to play, like basketball for the school or volleyball or football or whatnot, and they can't, commit the proper amount of time, it didn't make sense financially. And then it's also the kind of sport that if your heart's not in it, like I don't need to be dragging you up there, So I recognize that they did have a little bit of fun, but they didn't really gravitate towards the grind aspect to it. So I let them make up their own mind, and they just went their separate ways. But My daughter was hell on wheels, man. She was
Was
hell
she?
on wheels when she was competing. Yes.
Do you see yourself getting back into the competition phase and competing?
I'm gonna say this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm gonna say hell no. And the reason the reason being is that I tried to compete a lot as a white belt and a blue belt because I still had that chip on my shoulder. And what I started realizing is like, yes, I was getting better at a quicker rate. My intensity was up. You know, I could see my abs. Like it was all these cool things. I'm winning medals, but I wasn't enjoying it. You know, like it turned back into a job, which is exactly what I was trying to avoid. I didn't want a second job. I didn't want to go home and not be able to eat, you know, what I wanted to eat. I didn't want to budget, you know, an extra 100, 200 here or there for the local tournament or the IBJFF or like if you're going to compete, I'm a big believer in you need to do it wholeheartedly in the right way. And I wasn't willing to do that. For me, you know, training two, three, four times a week at my age, like I'm 44 right now, like that's what's fun for me. You know, I can get out what I need to get out of it without spending the money and dieting and, you know, obligating my time like I should. Because I don't
Yeah.
like doing things half-assed, you know?
Yeah, I don't totally understand that. Now, with the competition, you don't feel that you're ready to get back into it. Now, at the school, GB, uh, are you one of the coaches there?
Oh, no. So this is something else too. And I get asked this question a lot. I don't want to coach, you know, at this point in my life because like I'm a teacher and I am a coach. So for like 8 to 12 hours a day, depending if I'm in season or not, like that's what I do for a living. So not being a coach, you know, at a GB allows me the opportunity to go and be a student. And there's something special about like being a student. And I think that's what's made me such a good teacher is that I go and learn from Alex Morano. I go and learn from Matthew Wald. I go, you know, and learn from all these just like geniuses in striking and in grappling. And then I can bring it to my basketball players, my track athletes, my students and team leadership. It's good for me, the teacher, to know what it's like to be the student and vice versa. So I feel like it's a win-win. I think I could coach if I wanted to, and if I, you know, wanted to study it and put all my time and effort into it. But I have other interests, you know, the
Yeah.
books, the podcast, trying to start like a new sports media business right now as we speak. Like I'm going to send out an email to this team that we've just put together, like Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to say that like I'm using Jiu-Jitsu, not the other way around.
Yeah, right. You mentioned Professor Alex. I was there last December, and already he's a professional, right? And
Oh yeah.
after during sparring time, he walked over and grabbed me. He said, "Hey, I'm not going to be like these other professors. Don't take it easy on me." That was the worst thing I could hear. The worst, the worst thing that I could hear. That guy is an absolute beast. He is
Hmm.
he is so technical, and I can't say enough about him. And hopefully, we'll get a chance to hook up over there. I got my uniform already in the suitcase, so maybe we'll get a chance to fellowship
Oh
like that. I carry it
yes,
everywhere I
sir. You
go,
better
Chris.
believe it. Yeah.
I carry it everywhere.
Hey, well, let me tell you something about Alex. His his jujitsu to me is it's almost like more real worldish. I don't want to say more real worldish, but there's more application to like a fight scenario. Like what he shows and how he demonstrates it, like we see it at its highest levels. You know, he's putting it on the line in the UFC
Hmm.
against the world's best fighters. And to me, like that style, that wrestling heavy style, that
Hmm.
top heavy style, you know, initiating scrambles. Like if someone ever broke into my house and like push came to shove, or someone was to be messing with a loved one, like I feel like the stuff that I know would transition very well into that real life scenario.
Hmm.
And we kind of have our own style over there at Gracie Baja the Woodlands. It is very wrestling esque. We have a lot of
Yes.
high school wrestlers that come out of College Park High School, which is one of the best high school wrestling programs in the country, bar none. And
Oh wow.
like, yeah, they're starting to just like naturally just flow into our school because of the proximity. we had two of the gentlemen just get through winning amateur titles. One is double champ now over here at Elevate. Then another one won the 145 over there at Fury, and they're fixing to turn pro. So what Alex shows us, like, it's the real deal. I don't know if like you're gonna see any like wild butt scooting stuff going on at our gym, but
Nope.
you're gonna see some wrestling heavy, top heavy, ready for combat style jujitsu.
When I walked in the door and stepped on the mat, the warm up threw me for a loop because I'm not used to that warm up that way. We kind of do it the traditional way, but I tell you, just to mention the wrestling and the grappling and all of that, he showed me moves or techniques when I was there that I still use right now. Just so impactful. Just so impactful. Do you consider you guys lucky to have someone like Professor Alex training you guys or teaching you guys?
Yes, and if anyone would take a deep dive into like YouTube and then just watch Morano clips, of like post UFC press conferences, you would see like we're working with the mad scientist right there. The way that he breaks techniques down, the way that he drills us. I really feel like he would be a PhD in combat sports if they were able to give out those, I guess, certificates or degrees. And part of it, I believe, also is like he takes what he has and he learns from other people, right? Like there's two schools of thought, like, hey, let's keep it in house and let's not train underneath other people. And he's a real big believer, in going out and learning and cross training and getting the best. I think it's like 2 days a week he goes up to Dallas and trains underneath Saif Saud over there at Fortis MMA. So you think of all the killers that are in there. Like
Yep.
Jeff Neal, and there's a whole host of other people. I don't want to butcher names, but when you can humble yourself and go and learn from another general, and he has the utmost respect for him, it's really nice to see. But he humbles himself and he takes those awesome techniques that are used on a world-class level and he brings them back to us. And also the mindset too.
Yeah.
Like Coach Safe is he's an alpha, right? So he brings that mindset to us, and it's wonderful. We are blessed. We are lucky to have someone that's chased their dream, captured their dream, and living their dream. And not a lot of people can say that about their instructors.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with all of that high knowledge, technical, and getting your mind right, do you think that better prepared you to go and lead other people? I know you mentioned that you take certain things into coaching because you have that experience, but the mental mindset that it takes to practice jiu-jitsu or train jiu-jitsu, we know what it is, but do you find yourself kind of spreading those messages in a different way to your students and your athletes?
Of course. One of the things that I've learned about jiu-jitsu, and I've brought it over into the coaching realm, or I guess like the academic realm, is, and there's a handful. I'm going to give you a couple of them, but one of them is like, man, this thing is a marathon, right? Like if you want to continue to see success, it's not something that you can just dive into, momentarily. Like you're going to have some sustainability, some consistency, some discipline, because like, let's say my basketball players, I coach 8th grade basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these poor kids think like, oh, my 8th grade year, it's the end all be all. And it's like, no. This is just a stop in the road. This is your white belt in basketball. Like you're a baby in the sport still. Like you don't need to hit the podium. You don't need to go undefeated. You don't necessarily have to win the banner. It's let me program you with, the basics, the fundamentals. And then there's another level right after this, but everything is done like in sequential levels and it's a marathon. So let's quit looking at sports in terms of a sprint. Like I have to win all my games to be successful. I don't know where that outside pressure is coming from. Let's focus on, let's get better and let's add stuff to your game. Let's put more tools in your toolbox because just like in jiu-jitsu, in youth sports, what you see is like a lot of people don't finish the race, and it's those that finish the race that end up, being all right. There's a lot of
Hmm.
people that are really good initially, but what's that matter if you're, the greatest eighth grader ever? It don't matter, right?
Do
Like, let's get you to your junior and senior year.
With the explosion of social media, do you find it to be challenging to get your students and athletes to kind of take a step back and help them understand that what you see on most of those sites may not always be true or work out for you like it worked out for someone else? Do you find yourself having to step back some of your kids?
Yeah, social media and just overall, like the instant gratification generation.
Hmm.
Um, you have to you kind of have to keep that in mind. Like, these kids are operating at a different speed than we are. Like, we're able to sit back, at our age and understand like it's a marathon. That's why we're put in the position that we are. They have a certain mindset, but we have to show them like, no, 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 y'all quit sprinting. This is going to be a marathon. Let me help you get a pace that you can maintain and that you can hold on to. Let me make sure that it's fun so that you continue to show up to the mats or to the courts, each and every day. Let me take the time to select people on our teams that fit the culture. That's something else that
Hmm.
Murano and Jiu-Jitsu has taught me.
Hmm.
Like, culture is so important, and if you could set the right culture and you can get with the right young people, like, what we can do is it's almost endless.
I think the way that well, I believe the way you approach life, Chris, and the caring heart that you have, and you want to see people around you do better, get better, and especially being a community. I know you don't see yourself as that, but when I see you and I look at your episodes, I see someone that's really invested in children and building the community. Uh, what was your reason to stay in public education all of these years? Because winning teacher awards and winning championships, of course, you had other places that you could have went if you wanted to. What has kept you in the public realm so long?
Um, I love being around people, right? Like, every day is a new day when you come into the school, and I do see myself, eventually in the near future, kind of like moving on, um, because to when you do it right, it takes everything out of you. But what's kept me here is the people, and I actually, like, I live in the community that I teach in. So there's something special, about that. I know for the longest time, probably about 15 years, we used to open up the gym doors over here, and as a community, we'd come up here and we'd hoop, and I'd hoop with, the teachers in the school, the parents of the kids that I used to coach. Some of my old athletes would pull up, and they'd come and hoop with us. So I really do see this, what, like you stated, the community. I see it as what I serve, and I can like actually have my thumbprint on what goes on in this community by the good works that I do, and intentionally or unintentionally.
It's such a thankless position to be in sometimes because not a lot of people will embrace what someone from the outside looking in per se. Do you see it as a thankful, and what type of appreciation do you get out of being present and intentional with the community and your students?
I get a lot of joy. I get more joy from giving than receiving. So to see like light bulb moments in young people, to be able to give young people experiences that they previously have not had access to, like taking them out to. I always take my basketball teams to a college basketball game, and we visit a college campus. We rotate between Texas A&M and Rice University, right? Last year, we just started introducing the same trip, but to our softball players over here, so that they too can have access and possibly have a light bulb moment. Because I know for me, visiting U of H as a 12-year-old, when my mom sent me there for a baseball camp, like, that was the light bulb moment in my head and my heart that I wanted to go to college.
Hmm.
If there's one singular moment that I could remember, it was her sending me for, I think it was like 3 or 4 days to a U of H baseball camp, me sleeping inside of a dorm, eating, in the dorm cafeteria. Like I told myself that this is what I want to do. And that has kind of been the impetus to all the other things I do for these kids. Like I draw from my experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. So much more that we can talk about. And as I was saying earlier, hopefully we get a chance to hook up in the next couple of days and we can continue the fellowship. Now,
heck yeah, when are you coming down?
I will be there this evening. My granddaughter, she's in this world right now, so spend today with her. But Tuesday through the rest of the week, I definitely want to iron out some time so we can fellowship more.
Perfect. Hey, we're closed tomorrow. Just a heads up. I just got the email that GB's closed tomorrow. So
okay. Well, either way, we'll hook up and we'll talk. I'm going to make it my business that we can sit down and talk more.
Yes,
Chris,
sir.
tell us where we can find you on social media.
Well, you can find me at Chris Ortiz 3946 on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Chris Ortiz, or my website, CoachOrtiz.com, and you can actually find all my socials on there. But yeah, if you're bored and you want to look something up, man, look me up and holler at me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time this morning. Like I say, hopefully I'll see you in a couple of days.
All right, man. Hey, you have a blessed one, and congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank you so much, Chris. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching this episode of Beyond the Mat. Don't forget to check out episode 12, which is now out on YouTube. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. Thank you.